Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I am excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote just for this episode. If money is not thy servant, it will be thy master. Japanese proverb. Our guest today has been introduced to me by someone you know on the show if you listen, somebody I care about very deeply, the one and only Christopher Ty. They've been in their industry for upwards of almost 2 decades plus. They started their organization in the last 5 to 7 years. They've created a huge community of people that believe in them through events as well as the spirit of their leadership and marketing, something that not all of you might uh, either understand or maybe take for granted if you're a small business. And our guest today is the founder of Upkeeping, Erin Pohan. I'm so excited to have you on the show and get inside of your head on this very important topic, which is the money. I think Charlie Munger said, accounting is the language of business.
Oh, that is good. I like that. Yeah, thanks for having me, Jay. I'm really excited to dive into all things accounting and money and community, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and you were a marketing major at first, and then you figured out that you were really gifted with accounting 101. So what was it that was it numbers that came easily to you, or was it well, like what spoke to you? I thought that was very interesting when I was listening to one of your podcasts.
Yeah, I actually, like you said, I started off as a marketing major. I took entrepreneurship classes in high school and fell in love with the idea of creating something and marketing it. And I actually wanted to be Erin Andrews before Erin Andrews did her role of sportscasting down on the football fields. And I just love the idea of creating something and marketing it and putting it out there in the world. And so I went to school, started off at a community college, took general ed classes, and one of those happened to be accounting. And I realized quickly that I was the only one in my class who was enjoying it. And it wasn't about the numbers for me. For me, it was about the balance that came from looking at all the data and just knowing that a business transaction is affecting multiple parts of a business and trying to figure out what the story is that that data was telling.
What's the story?
Yeah.
What is the story? So let's have our listeners that are entrepreneurs. They're selling, they're marketing. They they may not even have a bookkeeper yet, or anyone on the team that's financially sound. What is the story?
So the story typically involves number one, your clients or customers are paying you. And so with that, we have deposits coming into the business. Well, there are expenses that are necessary in order to create that income to come into your business, whether it is you are buying products that you are going to resell to your customers, or you have overhead such as software or advertising. You want to make sure that you are capturing the costs related to generating your income for your customers. So the story then comes into play. Are you creating enough income to effectively offset the costs that it took to create that income, and then playing with the data to figure out how profitable you can become?
Hmm. Have you found that small business can grow themselves out of business?
Ooh, small business can grow themselves. Yes. I think that's every entrepreneur's obstacle that they have to face is how do I grow? And what does it look like to grow? If I want to make more money, what is it going to take cost wise, but also time wise? How long will, how much of my time will I need to invest into my business in order to grow?
In the earlier in your career, where you worked for some boutique firms, correct? In the space, like accounting firms.
Yeah, so I actually got my start in a very small CPA firm in Yuma, Arizona.
Oh.
And at the time, there were four partners and probably about 15 of us on staff. And I started as a receptionist while I was still going to
Oh.
school. And as I got my degree, I worked my way from receptionist to a staff accountant and helped with tax seasons and preparing taxes and doing bookkeeping and helping as payroll needs came up. I helped with this at the time, this very forward-thinking migration from their old legacy accounting system into QuickBooks Desktop, which
Mm,
now the world is QuickBooks Online, the cloud accounting world. But back then, it was a huge migration of data for the client files into the desktop. And it was a really great way for me to learn the ins and outs of an accounting file for our various customers.
mm.
And with that firm, it was wonderful because they took me under their wings and really showed me what it meant to be a professional and how to just focus on the details for each client.
Yeah, for those that are listening that are entrepreneurs, that they need to find, interview, qualify that partner, that vendor. What are some misnomers or like misunderstandings that you see clients, is it they have certain ideas that aren't true or half true when they're trying to figure out who's going to be on their team, or like misnomers you could speak to for entrepreneurs around.
Yeah. So as far as like when they're looking for an accountant to work with, is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah, like and
Yeah.
when's the time and when isn't? Because I'm thinking the entrepreneur that started, you know, in the recently,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
may just be intuition.
I love that question. Yeah, because so many entrepreneurs believe that they have to be making a certain like net profit to okay, to feel like they are finally ready to be able to hire an accountant or an outsourced accountant or someone to help. And the truth is there are accountants for every stage of your business. And so even at upkeeping, we call them like dedicated one-on-one consultations for our smaller business clients. And what that means is they are BIY is what I call it, bookkeeping it yourself. But they want the second set of eyes to make sure that they're understanding their accounting records correctly, they're recording things correctly, they're compliant with the city or the state. And it's that peace of mind for them at a very minimal cost. Uh, from there, I always tell them, we're here to support you and grow with you. So as they grow and scale and take on more clients or more transactions and the volume in their business really increases, they can look into more outsourcing more of that bookkeeping or accounting related work in monthly subscriptions or quarterly subscriptions, or we have clients that we are essentially their extension accounting office for them.
Are you seeing a rise in that?
In the mid-size business, yes, yes.
And mid-size, give me a ballpark of how you your definition or how you categorize mid-size.
For upkeeping, our mid-sized clients typically are involved with investors. So they are within funding rounds to receive several $1 million each funding round. And so they truly need more like controller kind of processes, someone to come and tell them to help create the accounting processes even, and then to make sure that everything is functioning within the accounting cycle. So it's not just recording the daily transactions for their books. That's the very minimal part of it. It's more of the scaling of all of the work and transactions that they are producing.
I remember preparing and having we have one of our regulars from Baker Tilly was when I was preparing for that interview, one of the stats that stuck out was there's less and less young people
Yeah.
pursuing the industry.
Yeah.
And these very large firms are react well, uh, burdened by that in a sense and reacting to that. What are your thoughts around this? Yeah, this phenomenon that's taking place.
Yeah, I love this phenomenon that's taking place. This is the future of accounting. It's happening right now. And so what is happening is the industry itself is aging. That is correct. There are a record number of CPAs that are retiring. And what that is paving the way for is for more smaller boutique firms, such as upkeeping, to come in. And these firm owners, such as myself, we get to create the life within the accounting industry that we want. And so the traditional route for an accountant was to either work for the big four or work for an accounting firm where you worked your way up the ranks to become a partner. And
Yeah.
working your way up the ranks killed you in that process with the hours that you were expected to work. And then, eventually the goal was for you to become the partner, and then retire off of that. Well, that's grueling, and that is not attractive. A lot of the younger accountants would come in and they would see the senior level, not partner accountants working their butts off, and they would get to this point where they would say, "I don't want that for my life." And so they would leave, and go to other industries. And similar, students in college know that they can go work in finance for 3 times as much salary off the bat than starting at the bottom, in the accounting industry. And so we are at this point, and this is like part of our mission at Upkeeping, is to make accounting relevant and understandable. The
Oh.
relevance is showing people that you can have this beautiful life within the accounting industry that you create, by running your own firm.
Okay, so as part of your val upkeeping's value proposition, a um something for actually account those that have those designations, those that as education and accounting background that are listening to this show,
Yeah,
to have an
absolutely.
opportunity to work with some kind of ecosystem or community. Is that part of what you're doing? You're not just doing client work?
Upkeeping itself is doing client work, but my passion project on the side is just empowering other accountants to just strive for what they want to see within this industry.
What's the reception been from those in the industry?
Oh, amazing. I set forth on this experimental trip into the world of LinkedIn about the end of 2023. So it's been a little over a year now. And I just decided I was going to start posting, and I had held back from posting based on several incorrect mindset limiting beliefs. And once I started posting, I opened up this world of amazing, supportive accountant peers, who I've now had the chance to meet in person at several of the accounting industry conferences.
Hmm.
And it's just become this amazing community. And to the point where as much as I love attending those industry conferences, I am in Seattle, and a lot of times it's very costly to travel to Florida or Vegas. And so I decided I was going to host an industry conference for women in accounting, specifically here in Seattle in May. And I put it out there thinking, well, I know there's got to be women locally who just want the same thing. They want community, they want to find driven peers who are striving for more and who are trying to change the industry. And I put it out there, and we have over 50 attendees now, coming in for this event. And we have women flying in from 10 states and Canada at this point. So it's just
Okay,
an
so
incredible turnout.
and these are people that have degrees in this craft
I don't know if I would say most of them probably have degrees, but they are
and are interested in
absolutely
it as well.
working with it. They are already working within the industry. They are accountants, they are EAs, CPAs.
Oh.
Most of them are running their own businesses.
What do you think is attractive to them?
I think the first part of it is community. I think just coming together, knowing that the goal of this event is collaboration and bringing, our pain points and our wins together to learn from one another so we can leave the event and just continue to strive forward with all of the learnings from the event.
Hmm. What type of, without necessarily naming names or giving exact case studies, what type of results have you seen with clients? I know you have a pretty great book of business. Like, 'cause I was listening to one of the shows. You have a lot of clients from like an entrepreneur that didn't have that infrastructure. Maybe they had sales, maybe they had marketing, but they didn't have that deeper look or that support that what that could do to change a business, a small business. Like
Yeah,
from if you have anecdotal, examples,
yeah. Are you talking about businesses in general or just like the event?
Yeah,
Uh,
so I'm kind of ping ponging between these two. The
yeah.
like I'm listening to the show right now. I have a plumbing business,
Mm,
or I had one for 4 years, and I started to suffer because I'm chasing my tail, and I didn't have you guys in my life to support me on the accounting side. All I knew was the plumbing aspect. Like what
yeah.
can they do to change a small business to have their numbers in order based on your experience?
Yeah, I mean, the most recent thing off the top of my head is I just got an email from one of my clients. They were audited and they were able to reduce a tax bill that was initially $100,000 down to $6,000 simply by meeting with me at a coffee shop for a couple hours to go through all of the data that, this was data that was before my time as their bookkeeper that I was able to go through, sort. I knew what to look for, I knew what to call out. And to reduce that bill by 96K was huge, a huge relief for them. So, there's always going to be the compliance side, but at the end of the day, like I said, part of our mission is making accounting understandable. It's not just about looking at that compliance, it's about looking at the most current set of financial data available so that business owners can make really good financial managerial decisions in their business to grow.
What are some tips for entrepreneurs that to start creating some order out of chaos as it
Yeah,
relates
so
to their ledger? I don't know.
yeah, I mean, if number one is keep it as current as possible. So that means if you need to set time on your calendar to go and review your transactions, to code them or categorize them is another way to call that. Into their appropriate profit and loss or balance sheet accounts, and to just make sure that you're recording everything related to your business transactions. And so part of that is what's called a reconciliation. And that's looking over your bank statements and your credit card statements to make sure that you've recorded everything on those and you've recorded everything on those only once so you don't have any duplications in your data. Most accounting platforms can walk you through reconciliation, and it is very quick because you can do everything on the platform. But if you're not using a platform, you really want to comb through your statements and make sure you've got everything recorded. And that's time consuming. So I've always used that analogy of the dirty dishes. No one wants a huge pile of dirty dishes. You want to do it a little at a time. So if you don't have an accounting platform, have some intentional block time, and that will help you to know what's going on in your business at that given moment.
Hmm. What are some common pains that clients, you know, get or pains, worries, concerns?
Yeah, I think when clients get behind on recording their transactions, sometimes they can also run into cash flow issues because they might not know how much they spent Other times they might not realize that they spent money on given expenses, such as annual software charges that renew without their knowledge. There's also, paid advertising. That is something that needs to be managed carefully and closely because a lot of times those expenses can increase without business owners' knowledge. So it's just paying attention to the transactions. And I think having a bookkeeper helps business owners be accountable to sitting down and looking at their data, or at least a good bookkeeper who is going to sit down and look over the data with you instead of just hand you a piece of paper that you might not look at.
Yeah, what do you say to the like, there's a reactive versus proactive
Yeah.
concept. How do you make it what's an example of proactive accounting versus reactive accounting?
So proactive accounting would be like sitting down for a financial meeting with your accountant or your bookkeeper. And even though we are looking at historical data, it is recent data that can help you to forecast the future, which would be the proactive part of that. Also, even doing a comparative analysis of the expenses can help you to determine your future spending habits and where you can cut back if you need to cut back.
How important it is, I guess actually there's an old there's a Mungerism. You don't know who's swimming naked till the tide goes out.
I've never heard that. That's awesome.
I'm yeah, Charlie Munger, we lost him on the tw November 28th, 2023. He was 99 years and 11 months.
Oh.
Um, Warren Buffett's partner. And he said, you don't know who's swimming naked till the tide goes out." What like that? What do you are there any alignment with accounting
Yeah,
with because that to me that
basically
screams like
every holiday season, for whatever reason, every holiday season is when upkeeping begins to get the panicked messages. So I'm talking end of year.
end of year.
It has to do with end of year. It's all of the business owners who at the beginning of the year they said I got this, or they started a business within the year and they said I got this, and then something triggers within that last month of the year where they realize they don't have it and they need help. And so that's the tide going out, and that's revealing everyone who's had their accounting processes in place versus the ones that did not or have no idea where to start.
What do you think core values are of the best clients?
Oh, kind is number one. uh, Trusting. Um, and I value curious clients who, they want to know what the reason for an expense account being higher than another one is. I love the meetings with my clients where we drill down into the transaction details and the ones who are actually invested in paying attention to those numbers.
Why?
Because they care about their business, and it just feels really good to know that the work that we're doing at upkeeping is flowing back to someone who is so vested into what they are building. It really is a tangible way for us to partner in their success.
What was your reasoning or inspiration behind the title of your company?
Oh, so I started upkeeping technically back in 2018 with a side hobby client. But it wasn't until 2021 that upkeeping was officially born and I came up with the name. And upkeeping, my first few clients came from, there was a platform called Upwork. And um, so I was like, oh, I kind of like Upwork, but also we focus on accounting cleanups and bookkeeping. And so cleanup, bookkeeping, upkeeping is where the name came from.
Ah, um, clean up. Is that a constant in small business, like Main Street businesses?
It shouldn't be. So the idea with an accounting cleanup is it's an engagement that business owners typically who haven't worked on their books in months or sometimes a full year need help to catch their books up to present day. And so they come with all of their data in raw form, and we need to create the story from those transactions. We categorize and then we reconcile, and then we're able to create the financial statements for whatever period of time. And so the cleanup really, our goal with that is one of two things. So either the client becomes a recurring client that we can keep up to date on a monthly basis, or we give the books back to the client clean, ready for them to take over and continue the processes on their end.
What relationship, if at all, do you see the strategy of a business having with it, knowing its numbers?
Oh, I think it's everything because cash flow is king. And so just understanding what your cash flow is, especially for retail clients who have inventory, they have cost of goods sold, they have sales tax that they deal with. Managing the cash flow is much more comprehensive than just looking at the
Wait,
bottom line
I
on the
thought all the money was mine.
Oh my goodness, yes, yes. I actually had a LinkedIn post where I listed this out where a business owner, makes a sale from a customer and all they see is $100 and their accountant would see, okay, great, $100 plus the sales tax you collected that you have to remit, minus the cost of goods sold, minus any of the overhead related to it. And yeah, two
Well,
different
yeah,
numbers.
because if I didn't see the 100, I wouldn't have started the business.
Right. So in a way, that's great. I mean, we always encourage our business owners to be visionaries and look at the top line,
Or
but it's our job to help you see
self-deceiving.
the bottom line too.
Yeah, do you ever see those TikTok videos where the guy's like, how much you make last year?
I am actually not on TikTok,
Or
but
Instagram?
I hear
Instagram?
about them from all the accountants in the industry,
And
and
then, so don't you think it's fun? I mean, this is me just in the consulting side. Don't you think it's funny that every time, almost every time who they ask, I would bet money that they're talking about the company's sales or the
yes, oh
company's
yeah, it's
revenue.
always top line. And so, and that's the
How
thing.
much did I make? It's the biggest ego message ever.
Yeah, yes, so much of it is
Yes, with
ego.
all of my surfs as they carried me on my, like the
Yeah.
Pharaoh.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
that's
Like
the
you don't
implicit. Yeah.
see all of the costs and probably the contractor or employee cost it takes
What's
to
the
generate
likelihood,
that.
just hypothetically, that the person saying that could actually have? Because I think this is very helpful for our entrepreneurs desiring to be self-aware, emotionally intelligent leaders. I
Yeah.
think this is an important piece of the conversation. Is there, as from the accounting background, is there a possibility that the person that's, you know, being asked that question on the street on Instagram that says, "Oh, I made 25 million last year." Is there a possibility if they're talking about top line, could they have actually lost money?
They could have lost all of it. They
Can
could
you
have lost
elaborate on
all of it.
that in a under like can you elaborate on that? Like you said, accessible, wait, what do you say? The mantra, understandable,
Yes. Yes. So if someone's saying they made $25 million in a year, we'll use this example. That's top line. So that is how much their customers paid them. They had $25 million in deposits into their bank account. Again, it costs money to make money. So, what expenses were needed to generate that $25 million? If you have a team of 1,000 employees working for you to make the 25 million, and of course, 1,000 employees is a lot, but even if you had a team of 10
50.
employees and you were paying them $360,000 annual salaries, your overhead is so high.
Yeah.
And then you factor in all your other expenses. There's a lot of times $25 million is going to come and go out of someone's account if they're not managing it
What
properly.
what what percentage of your of people that you meet, entrepreneurs, know what burn rate is?
Only the tech startups, really, because their investors teach them.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a good
honestly.
point, though.
Yeah.
But we can level up the audience. What is burn rate?
Burn rate is how much cash, how much expenses you are incurring in any given period.
How much expenses you are incurring in any given period? Why is that important to know as a founder, CEO?
Well, in relation to how much income you're generating, that's going to tell you whether or not your business is profitable, but also it's going to tell you, based on how much cash you have available within your business, how long you can fully operate the business with the funds that you have.
So, for example, if an entrepreneur loses 20, 30% of their customers in some horrific accident, there's going to be a lull in new customers. And
Yeah,
how,
and
how
there's
long
going to
can we
be
stay afloat?
Yeah, I mean that would be like forecasting, but you would want to factor in what's the lag time on the burn rate to that, because you might lose 20 to 30% off your income instantaneously, but your burn rate might not match that right away. You might still have that same amount of burn rate that you had the period before. And then that's when you really want to, this is why you need to be in your data and see the story it's telling you, because if you realize you've lost 20 to 30% of your customers as a financial manager, you need to start making cuts elsewhere within your budget. Or you might want to take the more bold approach, and you might want to spend more in advertising with the hopes that'll generate a return on investment.
So it's like, yeah, impact what we do or don't do as a management team.
Right.
Um, what are some of the oh, cash flow? What is that for the layperson?
Cash flow is the amount, so cash flow in is the amount you receive into your business. Really, it's all the amounts you receive into your business, to include customers paying you for the products you sell them if you're retail, or your services if you're not. It includes the amounts customers pay to you in sales tax that you'll later have to remit. And then
Hmm.
cash outflows are related to the expenses that you incur for the business, but also that remitting of customer sales tax later on, or inventory purchases for your business. And so when people think of cash outflow, they tend to only think about what's shown on their profit and loss statement, just the expense part of that statement.
Okay.
But cash outflow really includes other non-income statement items, like the sales tax that you've already been collecting on behalf of your customers, that you have to pay back to the state or the city, or payroll taxes if you have employees. Um, a lot of the payroll platforms will handle that part for you, but technically you are collecting payroll taxes, withholdings from your employees that you have to remit back to city, state, federal government. And then also inventory. When retailers purchase inventory items, that inventory purchase itself, you won't see, if you go to Alibaba and purchase $10,000 worth of product to resell, you won't see that $10,000 on a profit and loss statement. You'll see that go into an inventory account. And it's only when the products are actually sold that you see the cost, the true original cost of that product, recorded as an expense, which is called cost of goods sold.
Hmm. Um, what about 2025? What's the morale like, or like the the beat on the street with all the different people, networks you're in and communities you're in? And because the reason I ask that is that all these accounting uh compatriots, you have your business, you have all these clients, you're that's a lot of businesses that you're close to. What's the are people excited? Is there still apprehension in the markets? Like, what do you think on that?
I think everyone's very closely following along to what's going on within the government and just in economy as a whole, treading cautiously. Our clients, some of them are more impacted than others. I have clients who have lost funding because of different orders that are in place. I have clients who aren't affected and are operating as normal. Within the industry, we've had several regulations go back and forth over the last few months. So we're all just kind of watching with popcorn, waiting to see what happens.
Hmm. You have an event in May, don't you?
I do, yeah.
What is it and why did you put it together?
Yeah, so this is that Women in Accounting and Finance Visionaries and Entrepreneurs event. It's on May 22nd, and we will have over 50 women in attendance. We've got three speakers and a peer board strategist to help us with working through some of our obstacles and collaborating there. We also have a session on AI and tech and how we can implement that to just continue pushing toward a modern accounting industry. So really did it with the intention of building community, bringing women together to collaborate and to just show the world that you can run a joyful accounting firm and do it with others and make it just more attractive to those who are considering entering the accounting industry.
Has the social platforms been helpful to you in growing this business?
Yeah, absolutely. So LinkedIn has been wonderful. We have sponsors for this event who,
Oh.
they found it because of me posting on LinkedIn. Instagram has been really wonderful too. I've been on a few other podcasts sharing about it, and the response has been wonderful.
What did, if anything at all, what did you learn that you've used in your that's helped you with running your business from living all over the world? Because you moved, you've lived in Japan and other places, right? You're a military family.
Yeah. Yeah. So my husband's a Marine. We have lived, I think this is our 10th house, if I'm remembering correctly, all over the country. And then, yes, Japan for 3 years. And oh, what have I learned about business? I've learned how to meet people and do life with them and just get in quick because you never know how long you're going to have them for. So, um, yeah, I would say that's the biggest lesson that I've learned. I really didn't start my full career in accounting, I feel like, until my husband got out of active duty, but I was able to take bits and pieces and grow in my education to get my master's during that time.
Wow. Yeah, how did you get your original clients? Just your community, your network?
Uh, let's see. That's grown over time. Now that's the answer. Absolutely. My network is my biggest supporter and my biggest cheerleader. In the beginning, Upwork was probably, I don't know, the algorithm loved me. I would sign in and I would have new leads like by the next day. And so Upwork, and then once I started showing my face at networking events and building reputation, I was able to be top of mind when people needed help or their friends needed help.
What core values in an accountant make them a great partner for their client, you think? Like character, yeah.
Trustworthy, um, absolutely trustworthy. Number two, approachable. I think that's a big thing that's been missing from the industry is um, I get the I want to ask a dumb question all the time, and I tell prospects or clients that there's no such thing as a dumb question. Please ask any question you want, and please feel comfortable to ask your question.
Hmm. Should I buy a G-Wagon?
I don't know, what does TikTok say?
Yeah, what do you oh, I saw a TikTok or not, I don't watch it. I mean Instagram. I don't have the TikTok either. I think it's yeah. But it was something there's this thing going on where people are writing down everything they do if they're an influencer type thing.
Oh, you mean expenses? Oh my goodness. I was just thinking
Like
about,
my four Ferraris are actually
yeah.
part of my product.
To that I say,
Like a
gray area. And
gray
if
area?
you want to be, well, I mean, most of it is not. Most of it is very black and white, but there are some for influencers specifically that are gray area only because the tax verbiage is out of date and could use some updating. However, do you want to be the court case that
It's a great
decides
point.
that
Yeah,
ruling?
can you elaborate a little bit how because the tax code you like the in the some of the self-help world you'll hear people say things like how thick the book is and how many
Yeah,
pages and that it's gray and
yeah,
like in the reality of it, can you speak to the reality of it in the
yeah,
sense of people getting audited, people going to prison, people getting in trouble? Maybe my argument is that, oh well, but this book said or this guru said or
yeah,
and our listeners are being influenced by everything online
yeah.
constantly. So
Yeah, it comes down to how risk averse are you? Because at the end of the day, a valid business expense, as defined by the IRS, is an expense that is number one, ordinary, and number two, necessary for you to be able to conduct your business. Ordinary and necessary.
oh wow, I could see how the people with the Rolls Royces could justify it because they know that they're not getting me to give them 50 grand without the Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a psychological, I'm just kind of playing with it, right? But
Yeah.
ultimately I could see where one that's hooked up into that
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
convince themselves because there's truth to it. Like
Yeah.
if I'm somebody that thinks they have the answer for me and I give them the money because they have the car that I think symbolizes their philosophy. I,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. I'm
it
just
it
thinking out loud,
really
but
it really
necessary is very
is.
subjective.
That's the thing. There's so much subjectivity that you, how risk averse are you to knowing that in the event of a potential audit, you could substantiate your expense claim as ordinary and necessary. So that's where there needs to be more clear
The
guidance.
reason I'm asking that too is because culture matters, right? It's about values. What are our values in business? What are the values of our business culture? I'm curious, and the accounting to me is uh has a relationship with the values of a business culture.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do they have like, do they take accountants through ethics courses and things, or is that a big part of the craft? I've never taken any accounting courses, so I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, so if you are on the CPA track, there's so much um, ethics and ethical responsibilities that CPAs carry. When you are getting a traditional accounting degree, you learn all about the ethical requirements within the accounting industry as well. This is where business owners really want to vet who they are going to work with because not all bookkeepers have the education or are considering the CPA path, so they might not have those extensive studies within the ethical requirements or guidelines. Um, and it's okay. I think you can learn bookkeeping via experience and a great bookkeeping course. However, I think business owners just should be careful and have a careful vetting process to ensure that whoever they want to work with, they're not just going for the bottom dollar, the cheapest option. They're making sure that their bookkeepers are ethical.
What about the advisor? Is it the advisor advisee relationship? Where do you see that dynamic in the
You
CPA
know,
and the buyer, the executive?
yeah. So at upkeeping specifically, when we do our financial check-ins with our clients, we're looking over the data with them, but we go a bit beyond because we also can enter into more of an advisor roles in those moments. So, for example, I have one client who has had several hundreds of thousands of dollars in their account. Um, and it could be something as small as you're losing out on interest income every single month. This just sits in this account. Let's look into a high yield savings account for you. So things like that that can help them generate more income. And then just even doing the expense analysis with them, just comparing 3 months worth of data against each other is really advisory because that helps them to spot anomalies, to determine trends, and to make decisions based off that.
How soon do our listeners need to be thinking about next year's tax to avoid the holiday rush?
Oh yeah, so January just closed. So here's the question: are your January books done? It is February 4th. Are your January books done or are they being worked on? Do you have a date that you know they will be closed and you can review what happened in January? If whatever month you're listening this podcast in, can you tell yourself you know what your bottom line was for the prior month? That's when you know you should be focusing on your bookkeeping.
Mm. How about books? Do you have any recommendations or audio or physical? Are you how do you continue to learn and evolve and
Yeah, I actually just started reading books again for fun last year. I stuck to mindless books for a while, so I'm like looking at my list here.
nice.
I've got like First Line Wins, but I also have books like The Art of Impossible. I have a couple other business related books by like Donald Miller, Hero on a
Nice.
Mission. Um, yeah, I wish I had more time to read, and that's a good reminder.
Yeah, what's your advice to the entrepreneurs that are in their first five years of business?
Ooh, first 5 years of business. If you're not working with an accountant yet, start working with one. It doesn't have to be as costly of an arrangement as you think it does. There's a lot of accountants who have different services that can meet your needs. Um, get out there and meet people. If you're really wanting to grow your business, people need to know who you are first. So get out there and just, yeah, build your reputation.
How about the listener that's in a position where they have a career track, but a little voice is saying, you got to do your own business.
uh, surround yourself with people who are already doing it and listen to them and hear their guidance because I don't know if I would be where I'm at if I wasn't targeted by some Facebook ad from someone who was doing it themselves. And
Wow.
um yeah, I just needed to hear it from someone else who had done the same thing.
How did that help?
Oh, that introduced me to an entire community of other people who were running their own firms, who had left whatever roles they were within in the accounting industry. It gave me the necessary business formations that I needed, foundations, I should say. So, like the tech stack, the proper way to
Wow.
engage with clients, and all of that. So, yeah, it just set me up to just be able to know I can do this.
How do you think these larger firms compete in 2032?
Oh, larger firms in 2032. It's interesting because the accounting industry is experiencing this private equity takeover, and by 2032, I think we'll really know if it's a sound financial model or not. So that's where my
That's
first
I
thought goes. Um, I think we will see a lot more boutique firms such as upkeeping by 2032, individuals who are taking control of their own destinies, their own work life balance, their own clients that they choose and want to work with and mesh well with. And so I think that's really the trend we'll see. We won't see so much of the larger firms that
Do
we
you
have.
think the accounting profession can have a revitalization as a consequence of technology and social?
Oh, absolutely. There's two sides of like the AI story. Everyone's saying, "Oh, there's not going to be any more bookkeepers left once AI takes over." And then there's the other side, which is what I'm all about is no, please introduce AI and make as many automations that take things off my plate so I can serve my clients better.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're onto something there because what is would be less understood would be the psychology of it. That I think growth and self-awareness have an inverted relationship. Having somebody to say, "Hey, what are you doing there?"
Yeah,
It's like the financial advisor is not really earning their money till I want to sell everything low when I just bought it high.
yeah,
Like the financial advisor is useful when everything falls apart
right.
and the person is about to make some poor decision. So I agree with you on the AI, on the artificial intelligence integration because like isn't a big part of the value accountability?
Yeah, absolutely. And, AI, like I said, is great for automation, wonderful for just workflows and making things happen while you sleep. But at the end of the day, a huge part of what we do is client relationship. And, having the client reach out, hey, I got this bill in the mail. What do I do? I'm freaking out. And me saying, oh, don't worry, ADP or Gusto already handled that bill for you. That's just sent to you automatically from the state, but it's already filed. You owe nothing. You're good. And that peace of mind that they get right away from their accountant is everything to a business owner.
Erin, thanks so much for coming on the Culture Matters podcast. Let's say somebody that's listening wants to retain upkeeping interview for, to bring you a part of their organization. What's the fastest way to get in contact with you, upkeeping?
Yeah, you can just go to upkeeping.co. That is our website, and we have booking scheduling on there. So you can book an intros and connections meeting or a discovery consultation with me, and then we can go from there. I'm also very active on LinkedIn, so you can connect with me on there as well.
Thanks so much for coming on the show. And thank you, Christopher Ty, for making this happen. If you're listening to this episode, get in contact with Erin. Think about, think. How about that? Think, plan, be
Yeah.
proactive. Leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast, and we will see you next time. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you.